What's up, dream builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Nation? We are back again with another real estate episode that I am sure will ignite and inspire. Today's guest on the show, we have my brother, Mr. Dedrick Polite, and his wife, Krystal Polite. You want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
What's up, Dream Nation? Excited to be here.
Nation?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you on here. Now, I always like to start off and give the proper introduction. And the way that I do that is I know I like to compare us as real estate entrepreneurs to superheroes. And the reason being is because we're constantly flying around the world. I know you all have been and teaching tens of thousands of people about the real estate and the wholesale game. And also putting on your cape and trying to solve the world's biggest problems. And so my question to you is, behind Superman, we know who Clark Kent is, and behind Lois Lane, or behind Superwoman, we know who Lois Lane is. But behind the superheroes that we know as Dedrick and Krystal, who is that Clark Kent and Lois Lane?
Yeah, so we are a married couple. We grew up both in Boston, Massachusetts. Both come from humble beginnings, single parent backgrounds. I grew up in Roxbury in Boston, grew up on Section 8, food stamps, all that, and was able to overcome that just through education, through grinding, pulling myself up by my bootstraps. She has a similar story. She was raised by a single mom and started out in entrepreneurship at a young age. Both folks who did what our parents told us to do, go to school, get good grades, go ahead and get a job with benefits. That plan doesn't work anymore in 2020. So you got to make your own way. I was never a great employee. I was always okay, but I always wanted to do my own thing. I always wanted to be my own boss. So when we linked up, we had a plan. We both still had jobs, and we always had a side hustle. And within a few years, we were able to escape from the corporate rat race. And now we're full-time entrepreneurs, and I guess you can call it superheroes.
That's what's up, man. I love it. Yeah, for me, I never knew anything about financial literacy as well. So I can always appreciate that as you learn the game. Now, for you all, you could have did anything. Why did you decide to get into real estate?
We got into real estate, I think, especially me from a young age. I was always fascinated by real estate. I was always reading books on it. I seen the guys with the fancy suits and the fancy cars, and a lot of those guys were real estate investors. And just to be clear, we're not wholesalers. We are real estate entrepreneurs. We've used wholesaling as a strategy to buy and hold rental properties. We're all about cash flow, all about rental properties. So we own a portfolio of rentals that's growing rapidly. We're getting into multifamily, buying apartment buildings, buying mobile home parks. So real estate is just one of the best ways ever created to build wealth.
But it wasn't where we started. So we like to let people know it wasn't really just real estate. It was entrepreneurship in its entirety. Our very first business together wasn't real estate, actually. It was that drop shipping. And then we went to, one that made money was Airbnb. But then we bought a franchise that had nothing to do with real estate. So we got into real estate because my husband has wanted to be into it forever and a day. And he talked about it and had all the books, but he was just
the whole library back there.
Yeah, I see it.
I read all the books, but I was an over analyzer, right? Until I met her. She was the dreamer to jump off the building and grow wings on the way down. With us combined, the analytical and the action taker, we made it happen.
Right. Got it. So was your first, you said you started out with Airbnb. How did that first, I guess, endeavor go? Do you remember your first deal that you tried to Airbnb? Was it a successful one? You just felt like you couldn't scale it, or was it a flop in your eyes?
No, our first Airbnb was very successful. It was in Boston. It was actually back in 2012.
We were dating at the time.
We were dating about 2 months in. And she
was always over my house. She couldn't get enough of me.
Yeah. Well,
her apartment was vacant all the time.
We'll go with that.
So her apartment was always sitting vacant. So I was like, let's rent it out on Airbnb. She was like, she didn't even know what Airbnb was. And it was really new in 2012. So I was like, we can rent it out by the night. We throw some furniture in there. And we just started doing it. And this is in 2012. And within 3 or 4 months, we made like $30,000 renting her apartment out in Boston.
Which is like, what, 800 square feet?
Yeah. Yeah. We were able to pay for her mom's wedding. Her mom's getting married. We paid for her mom's wedding in cash. And that was one of our first businesses together.
Got it. How come you all didn't just decide to grab another property and just scale the Airbnb, especially since it was a new like blue ocean when not a lot of people knew about it?
At the time,
what had happened was
he wanted to. And then I ended up getting pregnant. And we were actually doing arbitrage before there was a name for it.
Got it.
So when
she didn't own it, it was a rent. She was renting the apartment.
So when they had found out and they was like, hey, listen, you can't be doing this here. And the management, it was literally, I think within a week's time, we had already decided to move to North Carolina. And that was the same time where they had found out that we were subleasing the unit.
They weren't too happy about that. So.
Right. So then he had came to me like, hey, listen, he had this whole plan like, yo, we need to do this it was called Airbnb on steroids is what he was calling it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was the one time I didn't listen to him. I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. I don't really see that taking off. And lo and behold, I was completely wrong because now it's called arbitrage.
Right.
And everyone's doing it. But back in 2012, he actually came to me with an entire plan of how to like literally just grow our portfolio, leasing apartments. And I just wasn't with it at the time. And now I kick myself like, dag, maybe I should have listened.
So when you first came to her, you didn't have any plans to try to buy these. You was like, yo, let's go get a whole bunch of leases in high trafficked areas where we know we can Airbnb this. And we're just going to market the hell out of them using Airbnb. And we're going to scale up and create our income that way.
Yeah, actually the plan was to rent out vacant houses that were sitting vacant, approach the landlord and say, hey, you're not making any income. Let me pay you some rent this out, sublease it to me. We couldn't afford to buy properties. This is in Boston where condos and single family houses were $300,000 or $400,000. We didn't have the capital to just go buy up a whole bunch of properties, but we were looking to arbitrage it at that time.
Got it. That's what's up. That right there is a genius mind. But you couldn't sell it to her.
Again, I had a whole business plan. I could go on Evernote right now. But yeah, that's what people call Airbnb arbitrage today.
Got it. So talk to me about how you all got exposed to the world. I know you said real estate entrepreneurs, but how did you get exposed to the world of wholesaling to where you decided that was the lane that you wanted to really build your empire through real estate, at least on the front side?
Yeah, so I heard about wholesaling like 2009, 2010. And I would see these dudes on YouTube. I won't mention the names. A lot of them are friends of mine now, but I'll be like, man, you made how much? 10,000, 20,000. It sounded too good to be true. I'm like, how are you buying a house, but you're not really buying it, and you're selling it, but you're not really selling it. You're making all this money. It sounded like a scam. I wanted to get into it, but it didn't seem legit until I introduced her to it. And she was like, look, you keep talking about this wholesaling thing. We do want to get into buying more rental properties. Let's just do it and see if it works. And then around 2017, we ran across our brother now, Max Maxwell, which everybody knows. And we saw that he was actually in our market. He lives about an hour away from us in North Carolina. So we saw what he was doing. And I was like, hold on, if this brother can do it, I know I can do this. So we met up with him, went to one of his meetups, and he broke down the game to us. And we told him our background. He's like, yo, listen, with your background, corporate experience and business experience, you guys can do this as well. And we just took off from there.
What I would say is the first person he actually brought to me was Nasser.
The real estate guru.
The real estate guru. That was like the very first person he started watching
on YouTube.
On YouTube out of Charlotte. And this is probably back in
2014, 2015.
Yep.
We were both still working jobs.
And he just kept telling me about Nasser. And then I started doing my own research on it. And I came across Mark Whitten.
Okay.
And started looking at a lot of his stuff. And then he had told me about Max. And we started watching Max's videos. And at the time, Max might have had 4 or 5 videos on YouTube at the time. And he was like, hey, he's in our market. He's like, man, if he can do it, we can do it. Because we wanted to see if it can be done in our market here in a small town in North Carolina. He's literally like 30 minutes away from us. So that's really what got me to being like, okay, once I saw that he had someone that looked like us, who was actually doing exactly what he wanted to do. Then I got to, okay, look, we're going to do this. You can stop talking about this shit. Let's put pen to paper and let's take action. So I started doing the LLC, forming the LLC, started doing all the paperwork for us to get started. And that's what kind of jump started him like, oh, shoot, okay, I guess we really going to do this.
That's what's up. What's up, Dream Builder? I hope that you're getting a lot of value from this episode. Note takers are money makers. So I hope that you're taking lots of notes, and I hope that you'll implement something that will help to change your real estate career. If you want even more access, even more resources, and you want a community to help keep you accountable, well, I want to invite you to head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. Again, that's DreamNationAcademy.com. That's where I hang out, as well as the team, and we host so many resources to help you along your real estate journey. So again, that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Let's go ahead and hop back on into it. So do you remember your first deal that you wholesaled?
Absolutely. Our first deal we found on Facebook Marketplace. We followed up with the seller for about 8 months before they agreed to sell it to us at the price we needed to get it at and to wholesale it. We got in the contract for $56,000. We actually told our accountant about it, and him and his wife were building a rental portfolio. So him and his wife bought it for $65,000 cash. So we made $11,000 on that first wholesale deal.
Wow. How long did it take you to close on it?
From getting on the contract to close was like 30, 45 days, but it took us almost 20 months to close our first wholesale deal. So we had been at it trying to close a deal for over a year, but to actually close one, it took about 20 months. So I say that to tell people, most people won't take that long. Don't give up. It could take you 6 months, could take you a year, could take you 2 years. Don't give up. Keep going at it. Once you figure it out, you know it. No one can take that knowledge away from you.
And I think what's more important, especially in regards to our own story, is what you do in between that time. So for us, in between that time, when we started to when we closed our first deal, was we educated ourselves on the entire business.
Invested
a lot of money, over 6 figures, in just education, masterminds, private coaches, software, consultants, literally on just education. So by the time we did close our first wholesale deal, we had 4 more lined up for the following week.
Closed immediately.
That closed immediately after that first one, and we were off to the races because we shortened our learning curve by investing so much in our education. So once we closed the first one, our system, our processes was already into place. We started with softwares that most people don't get until they're like 20, 30, 50 deals in the business. And our coaches and consultants was like, listen, this is what I'm using.
What are those softwares?
Like our CRM system, which is
having Podio, having PropStream, having Deal Machine. So a lot of those systems we invested in before we ever closed one deal.
We already have, I think when we first started out, we had Investor Title Toolbox where we were pulling our list from there as well. And that subscription alone was like
$1,500 for the year or something.
Just the year.
So we had invested so much money, Casanova, this had to work. It wasn't an option of, is this wholesaling thing going to work?
Right.
It has to work because we got these credit cards that we don't put these education on, so we got to pay it off.
Facts. No, I love that you said that. And I think for a lot of people, they get so nervous because they just don't think that, they think that they could shortcut the path on education. And I remember when I first got in and I first got into, obviously where I was coming from, I know a lot of my audience knows my story, but for you all, are you very familiar with my story?
No.
Got it. So just to tell you, we're going to keep it super short on this. But when I first got into real estate, I just came off of a period of I lost my mom, my job, and my home all within a matter of 2.5 weeks. Brand new city, brand new state, no family, no friends, no church group, no degree. What was I going to do now? And this was just 6 years ago. Prior to that, stage 4 cancer survivor, port in my chest, connected to my jugular, grew up inner city Chicago. So all of those things, I had all these limiting beliefs of, was I worthy enough? And then when I decided I was going to get into real estate, after I went through that period of losing my mom and all of that, within the next 9 months, I did 46 deals, $8 million in volume here in Omaha. So a lot of that, when people ask me about it, it was, I definitely had to invest into myself. And it's to your point that you're going to invest one of two things. You're going to either invest your own time or you're going to invest your own money. And a lot of people, they think that, oh, I could get this mentor and that means that I don't got to invest nothing. That's like the cheap way. I don't need a coach. I could just get a mentor and they're going to do it for free. And I don't got to invest nothing. It's like, nah, that's not the way that it works. And in the beginning, people will ask you why you're doing it. Why did you invest 6 figures? But in the end, they'll ask you how you did it. And they're like, yo, can you teach me how I could do that? So I love that path and that story. What was when you guys, so first off, you closed these 4 deals. Was there ever a time early on where either one of you were like, yo, I don't know if this is it. I think we might need to give up?
No. Right before we closed our first deal, a couple times we were thinking like, man, is this going to work? But once we closed that first deal, we made $11K. Like a couple days later, closed our second one, made $5,000. And then within a week later, we closed our third deal. We made $105K on a virtual wholesale deal. So at that point, it was like game on. I was like, okay, I can leave my job. Now, I didn't leave my job immediately. Most people would have been like, deuces.
No.
But I saw that, man, we can make like incredible life-changing income in this business. And we immediately took those funds, we put it into buying rental properties. So when we closed those 3 deals, we bought like 3 or 4 fourplexes immediately, and we got into the rental and the landlord game.
But that also goes to show, we tell people a lot of times when we first sat down and said we're going to get into real estate, we figured out our why. Why are we getting into real estate first? So our plan of action was always to, hey, we want to create a rental portfolio.
A massive one.
A massive
thousands
rental
of units,
portfolio.
so we never have to work again.
And even more importantly, so that we know our work will be left for future generations. Not our kids, but our kids' kids. Because our kids are a direct connection to us. So they're going to always be taken care of. But true wealth is formulated by what you do and how it affects generations after you. So that's what we were really focused on. So when people say, oh, what made you get into wholesaling, is because we wanted to build a rental portfolio. So we never got into wholesaling to get into just wholesaling.
That's a job.
Sense.
That's another job. We only got into it to build our own rental portfolio. And that's what we do now. We wholesale to buy and hold. That's it. So we, like my husband likes to say, cherry pick the best, wholesale the rest.
Got it.
So that's literally, my marketing is done specifically for buy and holds for us. So I don't just wholesale to be like, oh, let me just get a list and send it out to everyone and see who we can get to do 100 wholesale deals or 1,000 wholesale deals. That's not what our business model is. Our business model is, hey, we want apartments complexes. We want mobile home parks. So units. That's what my marketing is for. The quickest way to build our rental portfolio. So that's how I market. I market based on what we want to buy at the time. Land. I do land marketing.
Doing development, yeah.
Because we're getting into development this year. So that's how I pick my marketing, is literally just to buy a whole. I tell people when people say, hey, I wholesale 200 properties last year. And I'm like, man, that's great. First thing I asked though is, how many did you buy and hold? Oh yeah, that's coming. Damn, how many?
What you waiting for?
How many houses did you have to wholesale to just at least buy one?
Keep some of them.
So I tell them, I say, listen, you got a job. I'm not into having another job. I left that. And I have to explain to people, like, what was your why? Why did you get into real estate to begin with?
I love it.
Something people don't ask themselves in the beginning. They just see the videos and see people flashing money and see the checks on the Facebook groups and stuff. And they be like, oh my God, I got to make that. But then you get it. And then what?
It's gone as fast as you get it if you don't put it into an asset.
Right.
Producing.
No, I love that. Most people, they get out of the corporate world, they get out of that job, and then they find themselves just owning a job, but they think they're an entrepreneur and they own a business. But it was because they forgot what their why was and they never had a long-term plan. Yep. When people ask me all the time, like, I'm trying to figure out what my strategy is. It's like, you also, in the beginning, you got to know when you get any deal, what is going to be the exit strategy for you for that deal. A lot of people, they worry about the consumption, but they forget about, okay, when I get this, am I going to wholesale it? Am I going to buy and hold it? Whatever it might be. So I love that you guys brought that up. For people, there's a lot of people right now that are going to be watching or listening at this, and they're like, okay, wholesaling. This is the first time that I'm really hearing about this. Let's break it down for them and talk about what exactly is wholesaling and how could someone else profit off of this, and how could somebody else begin to leave their job from what we call wholesaling.
Yeah, I like to use the example is wholesaling is basically, it's in every business, every industry is,
Yep.
Can you buy something for less than what you can turn around and sell it for? So I like to use the example of an iPhone, right? This is an iPhone 10. iPhone 10 retail for $1,000. If someone came to you today and was like, hey, I got a box full of iPhones, I'll sell you 10 of them for $4,000. You do the math. Okay, that's $400 per iPhone. Even if you don't have the $4,000, you will find it, because if you bought those iPhones for $400 each, they retail for $1,000. You can turn around and sell them for $700 real quick, and brand new out the box. So that's the same concept of wholesaling, right? If a house is worth $100,000 fixed up, you can get it for 40 and it needs 20,000 of work. You get it under contract for 40. You don't have 40,000. Don't worry about that.
Right.
Give yourself 30 days to close, turn around, find Casanova, find a cash buyer like the Polite, sell it to us for 50. You make 10,000. We get a great deal. That's wholesaling.
Love it. Now, when people first get started in wholesaling, do they need a license?
Absolutely not.
Unless you're in like Chicago.
Unless you're in Chicago.
Unfortunately now,
Right.
yeah.
But you don't need a real estate license. That's one of the big issues, Casanova, big problem. People think, all right, I got to get a real estate license if I want to wholesale. You do not. Neither one of us have a license. Actually, a lot of our friends are realtors, and they come to us once they find out what we're doing with wholesaling and how we're building a rental portfolio. They're like, I want to do that. I don't want to be a realtor anymore. You guys are making like 5 times what I make on every deal. You don't even have a license.
Right.
So you don't need a license, but you do need the specialized knowledge. You do need to get educated, and you can't just depend on YouTube University.
Right.
YouTube is great. You can learn anything on YouTube, but it only gets you to a surface level. You got to dig deeper by going to seminars, hiring coaches, hiring mentors, hiring experts who've actually done what you're looking to do. That's what's going to take you to the next level.
Got it. And you talked, Krystal, in the beginning, you talked about getting a list. Why would someone need a list? What does the list do?
The list is for marketing purposes. So when you're targeting a specialized list, so say for me, multifamily list, I would go into a software such as PropStream, and I would pull a list in a specific area. So for me, it may be a county, and your list can be deep. It can be a wide list, deep list. It just depends on what you want to target. So for me, I would maybe do a county list, and I would pull every multifamily in that county. And then I would start to filter it down. For me, I don't want anything purchased recently. So I may say, put in a filter, anything purchased prior to 2000. Then I would make sure I may want it where no owners are living in these.
And why would you want something prior to 2000? What's the benefit of that?
The equity is a benefit of it. And a lot of times it's free and clear. Typically the owner is going to be older. So if they purchased it over 20 years ago, they're not going to be 25. You get what I'm saying? So you come face to face with a lot of owners that are typically in their 60s to 80s.
70s, 80, 90. And they want to cash out. Right now is the perfect time. So I ran that list, a specific list similar to this one. And we've been inundated with multifamilies of individuals who are between 70 and 90, all of them. And they're all looking to now cash out, either because they're like, hey, listen, I'm 90. Why do you think I want to cash out? I want to enjoy this money before I kick the bucket.
And that's literally,
all right, we'll buy it. Sure.
Yep. That's what we're hearing. And a lot of them we do a lot of creative financing. So a lot of them are like, listen, I'll even do seller finance because they have kids. So they're like, listen, if I'm not here to enjoy it, my kids will reap the benefits later. But the obstacle of them being younger and in real estate themselves is out the window. Now they're tired landlords.
Yeah.
They're phasing out and want to get out of the business altogether. That's why your filters are also very important for what you put on there. But that also goes back to what you're doing, what's your end game for these properties. If you're looking to just wholesale, then there's people who get an entire list for their county, just every house in the county, and they'll get this super deep list, wide list, of the entire county, and just hit them with marketing, ringless voicemail or text messaging, just, hey, we'll buy your house. Cold calling, we'll buy your house. And then you have people who just want to wholesale. They're going for volume, which is nothing wrong with that. And then you get people who's like, hey, listen, I'm doing more targeted list. I tell people, if your budget is slim, then, your list is going to reflect that also. So
now you mean when you say your budget, you mean your marketing budget?
Yes, your marketing budget.
What consists of a slim marketing budget? Like when someone's first getting started, what would you recommend that they have set aside if they're going to give this thing 3 months of I'm going hard at it?
It depends on what marketing method you're trying first. So we tell people, if you're doing like driving for dollars and you use the app that we use, which was Deal Machine when we started out, I tell people a $200 a month budget is a good budget to start with, to start getting leads coming in. You always want to choose your cheapest marketing methods first. Cheapest marketing methods is going to be either text messaging or cold calling if you're doing the cold calling. Mm-hmm. Those are your cheapest forms of marketing. Once you get a little money stacked, then you definitely would want to add ringless voicemail and direct mail as well. But we found that with Deal Machine, we were able to close, even when we started with Deal Machine, we closed over $500,000 in deals in 6 months. And that's on a $200 a month budget using that one app. So.
Got it. So Deal Machine, what exactly does Deal Machine do? For somebody that's not aware of Deal Machine and they've never heard of it.
So let's take it a step back, Casanova. So driving for dollars. So driving for dollars is driving around your neighborhood or your city and is looking for distressed properties that have boarded up windows. Maybe the grass hasn't been cut. You're looking for signs of distress. That's driving for dollars. What most people do when they're driving for dollars is they'll be old school. They'll have a little notepad in their front seat and they'll be like, okay, 123 Apple Street. When I get home, I'm going to look that up and I'm going to call them and see if they want to sell. We all forget. You never remember to call that owner when you get home. So what Deal Machine does is it makes it super simple to follow up with that owner. So you're driving 123 Apple Street, is boarded up. Every other house on the block looks nice except for this one. So you're like, something's going on here. You pull out your app, you pull up Deal Machine, you literally snap a picture, and you can actually send that homeowner a postcard on the spot. Hey, my name is Casanova. I'm a local home buyer. I would love to buy your home. I would love to make you a cash offer. You send them a postcard. You can actually set it up to send one out every 3 weeks, every month, whatever interval you choose automatically. So now you have marketing going out to that seller, right? Also, you can skip trace them in the app. So you can literally press a button, skip trace for 17 cents. It'll give you their phone number. What do you do?
Is it accurate?
It's about 80 to 90% accurate. Call them up. You call them. Hey, this is Dedrick Polite. I was just driving through the neighborhood, noticed your house. Any chance you'll be open to selling? You can also text them. So you can do 3 different forms of marketing right there on the spot. And again, that's how we've gotten the majority of our deals, is using this Driving for Dollars app called Deal Machine. And we drive for dollars now everywhere we go. Why? Because every house is a payday. We look at every house as, right, we can make 10 grand if we wholesale that house, right? And we can use that to buy another rental. Look at every house as a payday. If you don't own the house, we're going to Deal Machine it. We're going to Deal Machine your house, right?
Got it.
That mindset.
And it's super convenient because we spend a lot of time in our cars as is. So even while we have a team that's working behind the scenes, cold calling, text messaging, ringless voicemail, we are still out in the field and we're still coming across all these properties daily. And like we tell everyone, the best list you're ever going to have is the Driving for Dollars list, because that's the only list no one else, no other investor is going to be able to pay for.
You can't buy that list.
You can't buy it. It's your list. So that's still our go-to method, because no one else is driving for dollars or that we know of in our area. I'm sure there is, but it's so many houses in a day. For us, it's just, we absolutely love it. We absolutely love
Anyone can do it.
driving.
Anyone can do drive for
Super
dollars.
simple.
Yeah.
And cost effective wise, it's definitely one of the best methods when you're trying to make sure you stay within a budget.
That's what's up. No, we just got educated. Now, let me ask, if somebody is, okay, so I drove for dollars. I got a couple sellers that say, okay, yeah, like I'll sell my house to you. How do if I don't have the money to buy it, which you said in the beginning, you said, don't worry about if you got the money or not. How do I find somebody with the money to buy it? Or what do I do with the house now? I come to you, I said, Dedrick, I just got one. And what am I going to do now?
Yeah, so as long as it falls the numbers, so it's something called the 70% rule. So it's basically something that house flippers and real estate investors use. Look up the 70% rule. But if that deal falls within the 70% rule, you'll be able to find a buyer. And depending on your market, sometimes it's 80% rule and it goes up and down. But if it's a deal, you shouldn't have a problem finding a buyer. Where do you find buyers? Facebook. If you're in Omaha, Nebraska, go to Omaha, Nebraska Real Estate Investors Facebook group.
Yeah.
I bet you it's 10,000 people in there and 1,000 of them are legit cash buyers, right?
Make sure it's city specific.
Your city real estate investor group, right? Chicago Real Estate Investment Group. Charlotte Real Estate Investor Group.
Go to your local RIAs.
Real Estate Investors Association meetings.
You're going to have a ton of cash buyers there.
House, the auction.
Yep.
Go to the auctions at the courthouse where people are bidding on auction properties. Those guys have cash. They're looking to buy properties and they have cash. Another place. So cash buyers are a dime a dozen. The hard part is finding the deals.
Yeah. Another good tip, which I tell a lot of people, is when you're out driving, make sure you are stopping. Every time we are driving, especially my husband's out driving, and he see a contractor, he see a new house being built, a new house being renovated. It doesn't matter what if they're working on that house, he stops and he pulls over and he gets out and he talks to whomever is doing the building. If the GC is on, if it's subcontractors, he speaks to them. He exchanged business cards. He talked to, hey, what is your specialty? Because they're always looking for more houses. That's what they do. This is their business. This is their livelihood. So some of our biggest cash buyers, we've literally met just by driving,
seeing them renovating
houses. So I tell people, whenever you are out driving, it doesn't matter where we're headed, he will stop. Let me just stop real quick.
Because they could be a cash buyer or they could be a contractor that we can use to rehab our houses.
Rehabbers.
No, I love it.
Contractors.
Fire information. And for somebody that was wondering, again, because they're like, okay, 70% rule. Can you break that down? And I know you said to just Google it, but can you break that down? Because I think that they would want to know, well, what is the 70% rule?
Sure, absolutely. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel, but I'll break it down for your audience, Casanova. So let's take that $100,000 house, right? After the house is fixed up, it's worth $100,000. That's the after repair value. So the formula is you take the after repair value, you multiply it times 70%, right? Because you want to leave that 30% margin for your fix and flip investor. And then you subtract out the repairs, right? So say the after repair value is 100,000 times 70%. So now you have 70,000. Subtract out repairs. Let's say the property needs 20,000 in repairs. So 70,000 minus 20,000 is 50,000. And then you want to make a fee, right? For your effort, you're doing all this marketing, you're trying to find these motivated sellers. Say you want to make 10 grand. So you take 50,000 minus 10,000. So you're left with 40. That 40,000 is the max you can offer for this house, the max you can pay for this house. So if you get the property in the contract for 35,000, let's say it's beat up, it needs a new roof, the floor is falling in, like it needs a lot of work. That's why the seller might want to sell you a house that's worth 100, but it's in such disrepair. They're like, you know what? I inherited it. Give me 35,000 cash and it's yours. So you get that on the contract for 35. Again, you find a cash buyer that's looking to flip properties, right? Hey, I'll sell it to you for 45, 50. You make the difference. They buy from you for 45. You made 10, right? No money out of your pocket other than your marketing. That person paid 45. They put 20 into it. So they're all in for 65. They turn around, sell it for 100. So they made 35. You made 10. Everybody wins. The seller won because they got cash for their unwanted property. You won because you got a nice fat check for wholesaling the property. And then your investor won because they got a deal on a fix and flip property.
Man, I love it. So much knowledge, so much wisdom. Let me ask it. I always love to ask this question, even though for a lot of people, they'll say if they could go back, they wouldn't change anything on their journey. But knowing the wisdom that you've accumulated over these last 5 to 10 years, right? I always like to ask the question, if you had to go back and change one thing, or if there was one thing you wish you would have accelerate or you wish you would have implemented sooner to accelerate your path and your journey on your dream, what would that one thing have been?
For me, it would have been, we would have started sooner.
Yeah.
If we would have if I would have started the week I met him,
Right out of college instead of going to work.
if I would have known about this just when I was younger, that would have
You're still
made,
young.
yeah, but I've been an entrepreneur since 18. So
Yeah.
I've had my own company since I was 18 years old. And my entire life has been about having a business. Like, it's always been, so when girls was out partying and drinking and everybody needed the latest fashion, mine always went into another business idea since 18 years old. So if I'd have just been opened, my eyes would have been open to something such as this. And then we would have, the moment we got together, would have started real estate even then, which was what, 2009?
11 years ago.
If we'd have started in 2009, because we started
27.
a business together within 2 months of being with each other. It just wasn't real estate. Well, it wasn't this form of real estate. So had we just, I think for
Y'all
me,
pioneers in the arbitrage game.
just, if I'd have even listened to him that one time, because he's not the visionary. I'm the visionary. He's the integrator. And I just, that one time I didn't listen, and I was like, oh man. And now even when I see it, I'd be like, damn, I should have listened to him. Every time somebody mentioned it, I'd be like,
So the takeaway from that is make sure that you're open, and every opportunity sometimes is disguised as things that's just unknown to you, but at least have your ears open.
Yep.
and to listen, because a lot of people right now, they're trying to figure out their pivot. They're trying to figure out how they can basically get some certainty in the world of the pandemic and everything else. But there's opportunities that's been presented every single day, maybe just on YouTube University, but you're not open to it. So I love that you said that. What about you, my man? What if there was one thing?
Man, I actually have two things.
All right.
One is the power of associating, right? The power of who you hang around.
Yep.
You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mm.
So financially, spiritually, relationship-wise, physically, whoever you spend the most time with, you're going to gravitate to becoming like them. So if I would have realized that in my early 20s, I'm 38 now, I wish I would have realized that earlier. Getting around people who are at a higher level than you so you can raise your game. That would be one of the things I would have done sooner. And then the second thing I would change is becoming an expert at hiring experts. Not trying to figure out everything myself, being cheap. Let me just figure it out. Let me watch 1,000 YouTube videos and try to piece it all together. No, it was my wife who was like, listen, we need to shorten our learning curve. We're not going to spend 10 years trying to figure this out. We need to figure out cold calling. Let's hire an expert who is an expert. They made $1 million from cold calling. Let's pay them $5,000 to show us how to make $1 million. So become an expert at hiring experts. Those are the two things I would do differently.
Man, so much wisdom right there in just that segment. And I love that you brought up Rocket Fuel. I just actually read that book. We was in Scottsdale, my wife and I, we was in Scottsdale, 2.5 weeks ago. And a buddy of mine, I'm the visionary as well. And my wife's the integrator. And I didn't know what I was even describing. My buddy was like, yo, have you ever read Rocket Fuel? And I was like, no. And I've heard of Gino Wickman, but I never read the book. And then he was like, you got to read that. I read it in 2 days. Like it was everything. So I love that you brought that up. For anybody that's listening or watching this is definitely a book that you'll want to read. But yeah, thank you. The last question that I have is, there's somebody out there right now that is very, very inspired, besides myself, by your journey, by your wisdom, by your charisma, everything. And they want to blaze a path that's very similar to yours. But they have that little voice in their head, and that little voice says that they're not smart enough, they're not strong enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. What's the one thing that you would leave that person with to get them to just take action?
I would say that one thing is I had that voice in my head for years. I always knew deep down I can do it. There was always that little devil on your shoulder being like, nah, you can't do it. You don't have this, you don't have that. So I would say get around people again who inspire you. What you put into your brain is the most powerful thing, right? What goes in. So the podcast you listen to, the TV shows you watch. So what I started doing is I stopped watching sports, right? The football game, I'm not watching the NFL every Sunday like I used to. I'll watch the 10-minute clip on YouTube to get the highlights. That's it. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always reading books. I'm always pouring positive information in my head, and that stuff flows out. So it's really important what you put into your head to drown out that negative self-talk. If you fill it with positivity and learning and education, that made a difference for me.
And what I would say is, it's a quote from Les Brown. If you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And I try to always tell people, based on just our journey, it's going to happen for you when it's meant to happen for you. Stay the course. Make sure that you are really diligent in your whys and your goals. Make sure everything you do is about structure. Be very cognizant of the people who are around you. One of the things I explained to my husband when we first met is the most valuable gift you can give anyone is a moment of your time. So make sure every moment of your day that you can look back on and say, hey, that was well spent. So one of the things that I make sure throughout my entire day is that every moment of my time is a moment that I can say, okay, that was worth my time. Because it's a moment of my life that I'm never going to get back. And right now, we're in a period of building. And I tell people all the time, both of us had full-time jobs working real estate and owning a franchise in 2 different states.
With 2 kids.
With 2 kids. So remember your why. Remember that it's a journey, not a trip. And remain focused on your goal, even in the midst of this battle. Remain focused on your goals. So that would be me.
I love it. I want to be the first one to say thank you to you both for giving us a moment of your time. And you've dropped so much wisdom. And yeah, I'm excited to release this episode to share your wisdom with the tribe and with everyone else that can see it. For anyone who wants to stay connected with both of you all, where can they find you at?
So they can find us in all things Be Polite. So BE Polite, which is our last name. So on Facebook, Be Polite Properties, on Instagram at Be Polite, YouTube. We have a ton of educational and informative and funny videos on YouTube. We also have a course where we teach people how to close deals from Driving for Dollars. You can go to drivingfordollarscourse.com. Anyone looking to try out the Deal Machine app, go to getdealmachine.com, dealmachine.com. You can try that out. But yeah, we love to connect with folks. We love helping people. We have a
private Facebook group as well.
Oh yeah, the couples Facebook group.
For couples that are in business, thinking about getting into business. It's called the Copreneur.
Okay.
COPRENEUR, the Copreneur. And we do a ton of content on there daily. We do a lot of webinars on there.
Not just real estate.
Yeah, not just, it's really for all areas of business.
Okay.
And we do a lot of it surrounding 7 streams, because we tell people if you have one stream of income, you are closer to
financial disaster
than not. So we really do a lot of educating people on multiple streams of income, and not just looking at us like, oh my God, y'all are into real estate. Yeah, but we have about 9 streams of incomes. They're real estate related, but we still don't have just one lane, one revenue stream. So we do a lot of educating in that space as well.
I love it. I love it. Thank you again. I want to be the first one to kick off that thank you train. If no one else has told you today, I appreciate you both.
Thanks.
And remember, Dream Nation, in the dream we trust, but you have to take action. Otherwise, that dream that you have is only merely a fantasy. That's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for having us.
First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to walk with you on this real estate journey. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.